Welcome back to Magic Orthodoxy. My name is David, and this is a deck review. Today, we're going to look at the Origins deck from Rick Davidson. Now, the Origins series was done as a Kickstarter project. Rick Davidson put it out as something that he wanted to do, something that he was really inspired about, and it was really successful, and a lot of people gravitated towards this Kickstarter, and I backed it, obviously, and been waiting a long time for these decks, and gotta say, these are awesome. The Origins decks, there was two of them. There was this black one, black tuck case, and it's the first edition, and then there was the limited edition white deck called the Grail. Now, the whole concept behind the Origins series was that these cards were going to be a return to the 16th century, a return to the source of where playing cards came from. And so Rick decided to do honor to that with these two really high quality decks. You know, playing cards have been around for hundreds of years, and what we have today as our standard courts, they're kind of echoes, they're kind of shadows of something that was seen and created maybe way far as back as the 15th century in France. Slowly, all the courts and the pips and the suits that we used, they were all adopted and copied in England. And so eventually, what we know as the standard deck of cards spread all across the globe. And there's very little known about where they started from and where they found their origins. So what Rick did is he decided to work with all of these different card historians and museums. He searched archives, and he was trying to find what he called his original sources. And so he used all kinds of reference materials. He researched the Bibliothèque Nationale of France. He had contacts at the British Museum. He went through the Archives Department of the Cyan Maritime, and even the Fitzwilliam Museum of Cambridge. So he did a lot of research on these, and so what you end up with is just something that's really amazing, and I love these decks. So we're going to take a look at both of them. The tuck case for the Origins Grail limited edition is embellished and embossed with a hot stamped gold foil all over, and it makes for a really beautiful tuck case, and it's all put onto this mute white kind of pearlescent cardstock. The front says Origins Grail limited edition premium quality cards. The side says United States Playing Card Company. The other side says Origins Playing Card inspired by history. On the bottom there's some ad copy about Rick Davidson. And the back design is just a beautiful hot pressed image of the back design of the cards. And of course each tuck comes with an original red seal. And then you'll notice even the flap has some embellishments there. Even there's some little fleur-de-lis even on the little tuck flaps there too. So that's pretty much it for the tuck case. Now let's take a look at these cards. All the cards in the Grail Edition deck, they were all individually researched and custom designed. These cards were printed on a casino quality B stock from the United States Playing Card Company. They do have an air cushion embossing, and they do contain magic finish. Rick made sure that these cards were also printed at the highest control level of Q1 from the United States Playing Card Company. And if you'd like to learn more about embossing or cardstock, you can click this link. Now, the back design of the Grail deck is very similar to the Origins First Edition in that it's the same pattern, although it is a white background with gold print. The back design for this deck drew a lot of inspiration from 16th century art, especially wood cuttings, and Rick tried very hard to recreate a lot of these very ancient and familiar imagery into a brand new design. And although some of the original design of some of these ancient cards has been lost, Rick did his very best to recreate something that was both modern and captured some of that historic detail. You'll notice that the center has a floral pattern, and each side, the left and the right, is guarded by a sword, one going up and one going down. There is a textured architectural border, and then there's also this thin white border on the edge. It's not a razor thin, sharp, teeny tiny border, but it is smaller than your average white rider back. Then also, there's a really cool thing to note here. There's a little ribbon, a little banner here on the left and on the right. What that does is it creates this repeating pattern that you see in spreads and in fans. With this deck, you're also going to get a couple of interesting things. The first of which is you're going to get an Origins ad card. It tells a little bit about Rick and his inspiration for why he made this deck. And then you're going to get a really special gaff card that was designed by Lee Asher. It is a King of Spades on the top, and then a Queen of Hearts on the bottom. And if you actually go to the Origins Cards website, that's originscards.com, you can watch a little video about how to use this gaff. You're also going to get two jokers. They're not identical, but they're very pretty. You're going to get a black joker and a red joker. And another thing you're going to notice is where the Origins first edition cards had gold embellishments, this deck has silver embellishments. So you'll notice that in the Jester's hat and then in his collar, it's a silver as opposed to the original Origins, which was gold. And this Jester has his hat points up in the air, and then this Jester, the hat points are down. With this deck, you're also going to get 4 really beautiful aces. Originally, in the 16th century, when cards were first created, the king was actually the highest card in the deck, and nowadays it's the ace. And that transpired over time, and it was kind of like a symbol of how the lowest person, or the serf, could end up rising to power, or could overthrow the king. And so it's kind of like this, the poorest among you or the lowest among you could one day be the most powerful, and it's something that we still use today when we play with cards. The Ace of Spades has the largest pip, and it has some silver gold muted embellishments there in the middle, and you're getting a lot of that architectural wheel and imagery that you'd have from the back design there. The other 3 aces have these kind of exploding light rays coming in behind the pip, and then the center of each one of these pips has some of that architectural muted embellishment as well. Each one of the court cards has been hand-drawn and redesigned. If you get the Origins book, you'll see where a lot of this inspiration came from. You can also check the Kickstarter, and you'll see some of that in Rick Davidson's notes. Each one of these cards drew inspiration from an original 16th century design that Rick has redrawn and given beautiful clothing to, style from that period, and beautiful faces to that I think make for really beautiful cards. Hey guys, just wanted to steal the camera real quick so that you could get a close-up look at the Grail edition here, a little closer. And just a reminder, the Grail edition has the silver accents in the court cards as opposed to the gold accents from the first edition. And you know, at any time, if you'd like to glance at these a little closer, you can always use your camera controls if you'd like to take a longer and closer look. Guys, I wanted to show you a close-up of this Origin collector's coin. You know, sometimes you see these on the internet and you don't realize just how big they are. So this is the collector's coin compared to a regular sized quarter. So you can just, you know, really get an idea of just how big this is. And maybe you're thinking, well, what would I ever use this for? It's good just as a collector's item, but it has a lot of weight to it too. So something like this would be really cool as like a dealer's chip if you're playing poker, or something like that. That would be cool. So yeah, that is the collector's coin for the Origins cards. So here's a close-up of the collector's Origins postcard that you get with the campaign. This is a close-up of the vintage Queen of Clubs. And then the back side has the Rick Davidson newer revised version of the Queen of Clubs with a little bit of a description about the artist. The Origins Collector's Book, that is an option, is a little brief introduction to the art and history behind playing cards. And as you can see, it's filled with all kinds of beautiful pictures and just a lot of text. And you can really see just how these cards came about. And Rick gives you a wonderful history of playing cards, you know, where they came from. And he shows you a lot of his inspiration behind how the cards came about. And you really get a full story, not only to the history of playing cards, but to the evolution of the Origins deck. Well, that is it for this deck review. If you'd like to learn more about these decks, the Origins decks or Rick Davidson, you can go to originscards.com. I always recommend that you can like this video just so other people can find it faster. You can also subscribe to our channel just to stay up to date on the latest in cards and card magic. You can also follow us on Twitter, which is twitter.com/magicorthodoxy. You can also like our page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/magicorthodoxy. Thanks. Bye.